A woman came to the prophet Elisha with two things: a debt she could not pay, and one small jar of oil. Her husband had died. He had been one of the sons of the prophets, a man of faith, a man who served God. But he had also died in debt, and now the creditor had come to collect. Not money this time. He had come for her two sons. Under the law of that era, a creditor had the legal right to take a debtor's children as servants to work off what was owed. The woman was not facing inconvenience. She was facing the dismantling of her family. She went to Elisha. She told him the situation plainly, and his response was not what most of us would expect from a prophet of God. He did not pray over her debt. He did not tell her to fast and believe. He did not instruct her to sow a seed into the ministry and trust God for a miracle. He asked her a practical question. He said, "What do you have in your house?" She told him, "Nothing at all except a small jar of olive oil." And from that single jar, with a method Elisha gave her, she filled every vessel in the neighborhood, sold the oil, paid off the debt in full, and had enough left over to live on. Most people hear that story and think it is about a miracle. It is, but it is also about something else entirely. It is about a method, a sequence of practical steps that God gave a woman in debt to get herself out of it. That method is still in the text, and most people have been sitting in church with that story in their Bible, drowning in debt, and never once noticed that God handed them the framework. Here is the way most Christians handle debt. They acknowledge it is a problem. They feel the appropriate amount of guilt about it. They pray for relief. They wait for an unexpected windfall, a bonus, a tax return, a relative who leaves them something. And in the meantime, they continue making minimum payments on balances that barely move, watching the interest accumulate quietly in the background while they get on with the rest of their life. The debt is never really confronted. It is managed. There is a difference. And underneath all of it sits a quiet theological confusion. Many believers have absorbed the idea that debt is simply a consequence of the fallen world, something to be endured rather than strategically dismantled. Some have even spiritualized it to the point where they believe that if they just give enough, pray enough, or believe hard enough, the debt will dissolve through supernatural means without requiring any particular change in behavior. This is not what the Bible teaches. Proverbs chapter 22, verse 7 says it plainly: "The borrower is slave to the lender." That is not a metaphor to be unpacked over a sermon series. It is a statement of condition. When you owe money, your options are constrained. Your income belongs, in part, to someone else. Your decisions are shaped by obligations you cannot easily escape. You are not free. And God, throughout Scripture, cares deeply about freedom. The entire structure of the Old Testament economic law was designed with one principle at its center. Debt is a temporary state, not a permanent identity. Most Christians have heard of the year of Jubilee, but very few have read the chapter that comes before it. In Deuteronomy chapter 15, God gives Israel a law called the Year of Release. Every 7 years, debts between Israelites were to be canceled. The creditor released the borrower from what was owed, clean. No lingering obligation, no interest continuing to compound across a lifetime. God did not give this law because debt was normal and acceptable. He gave it because he understood the nature of debt and what it does to people over time. He built a release mechanism directly into the social structure of his people. The law was saying something about the character of God. He does not want his people in permanent bondage to debt. He designed a system where that bondage has a ceiling. Now go back to the widow in 2 Kings chapter 4. Elisha asks her what she has. She tells him. He gives her instructions. "Borrow vessels from your neighbors," he says. "Borrow as many as you can find. Do not get just a few. Then go inside with your sons, shut the door, and start pouring." She poured from the one small jar into every vessel she had borrowed, and the oil kept coming. It did not run out until the last vessel was full. When she told Elisha, he gave her the final instruction: go sell the oil, pay your debt, and you and your sons can live on the rest. Notice the structure of what happened. She was asked to take inventory of what she had. She was given a method that required her active participation. She was told to gather every available container, meaning to maximize the capacity for the solution. She worked the method inside her own house, with the door closed, without an audience. And when the work was done, the debt was gone and she had provision remaining. That is not just a miracle story. That is a debt elimination framework wrapped in a miracle. Take inventory, maximize your containers, work the method consistently and privately, pay the debt from what it produces, and do not stop until the last vessel is full. The principle has not changed. So let us bring this into your actual financial situation right now. You may have a number in your head, the total of what you owe. Credit cards, personal loans, a car you are still paying off, money borrowed from family that no one talks about anymore. Some people know that number exactly. Others have avoided adding it all up because the total feels too large to face. Elisha started by asking the widow what she had, not what she owed. What she had. That sequence matters. Before you can address the debt, you need an honest picture of the resources available to you. Most people in debt are also sitting on untapped capacity they have not examined. Income that could be redirected if the spending were examined honestly, subscriptions no one uses, meals bought when food was already in the house, patterns of spending that exist not out of necessity but out of habit and emotional comfort, particularly the comfort of not looking at the numbers too closely. What do you have in your house? That question is still being asked, and the answer is almost always more than nothing. It is rarely a dramatic surplus, but it is the starting point, because the widow did not get miraculous oil poured into empty hair. The oil flowed through the vessels she gathered. The miracle worked through the method, and the method required her to take what she had, work it consistently, and refuse to stop until every vessel was full. The debt does not disappear through prayer alone. It disappears through a sustained, systematic process of pouring what you have into reducing what you owe, one vessel at a time, with the door closed and no audience required. Here is the practical shift the Bible is pointing toward. Stop waiting for the windfall. Stop waiting for the number to feel small enough to tackle. Stop waiting for a season when the budget feels easier or the timing feels better. The widow did not have easy timing. She had 2 sons about to be taken from her and 1 jar of oil. She started with what she had. The biblical method for debt is not complicated. It is uncomfortable, which is different. Take an honest inventory of everything owed and everything coming in. Find the gap. Identify every available container, every expense that can be reduced, every stream of income that can be added, every habit that is costing more than it's worth. Then pour consistently into reducing the smallest debt first, with everything the budget can produce, while making minimum payments on the rest. When the smallest is gone, pour everything into the next one. This is not new information. Many people have heard some version of this. The reason it hasn't worked is because the door was never closed. Elisha told the widow to go inside and shut the door. The work of getting out of debt is not a public project. It is private, consistent, and unglamorous. It does not make for an impressive conversation. It requires saying no to things that other people will not understand and will not ask you to explain. It requires working a method when there is no one watching and no visible result yet. The oil did not run out until every vessel was full. Your debt will not be gone until every vessel has been filled. But the oil is still flowing. The question is whether you have gathered enough vessels and whether you are willing to shut the door. The widow came to Elisha with a debt she could not pay and a jar of oil she almost dismissed as nothing. She left debt-free. Not because God dropped money into her account, not because the creditor had a change of heart, but because she took what she had, followed a method, worked it in private, and did not stop until it was finished. The debt escape plan has been in the Bible the whole time, not hidden, not reserved for theologians, sitting in 2 Kings chapter 4,
available to anyone willing to read past the miracle and look at the method underneath it. God asked her what she had. The same question is in the room with you right now. What do you have in your house, and what are you going to do with it?